Hey, what's up, YouTube? It's your boy Barlow B Theorizing, and welcome back to the Barlow Zone, home of the one and only demon hunter King Kaido, himself sent to Azeroth. How's everybody doing today? I hope y'all enjoyed the chapter as much as I did, because, woo boy, Barlow got some takeaways this week. Now, as I've been doing the last couple weeks, I am not going to be doing a full review. If that's what you're looking for, please do feel free to step away. I do believe I saw Teching and Grandline Review already had their reviews posted, so feel free to hop over there and check out what their insights are. Bound to be something spicy and worth the time. And if you're feeling up to it, come back afterwards, take a listen to what my takeaways from the chapter were, what I thought were some of the more interesting points, and let me know. Did I mention something they already mentioned? Should I have watched their videos first to make sure I didn't mention something they already mentioned? But there were, aside from the Shamrock and Shanks of it all, because I am going to carve out a few moments at the end to talk about the Shamrock Shanks angle, because I'm sure everybody in the community is going to want to talk about that this week. That was an amazing panel. I'll leave it at that for now. I don't want to spoil any of the bit with them later on. But I think I am going to start with the takeaway that kind of is my theory from the chapter this week, at least the immediate theory. And I'm not going to spend too much time elaborating on it, because any of us who have been keeping up with the story week to week in the manga, right? I have to imagine it's an angle most of us are going to be thinking about now. After everything that happened in this chapter, how 1157 ended, I, as far as my theory, because we still, every time we've seen Harold so far, right, up until 40 years ago, because we didn't see him during the last page when we cut to God Valley, right? But up to 40 years ago, he is still Harold with the horns. He is still full pride in his ancient giant blood, seemingly, right? And then he was tasked with killing Roxy Zebek. Hey, homie, you go out, you take care of this problem for us, you got a spot at our table. Guaranteed. And even at the time, it's something we knew, okay, that this obviously doesn't work out, because we are already aware that Roxy Zebek seemingly meets his doom on God Valley. So then it becomes, were the horns an attempt by Harold to find an alternate way of gaining favor with the world government, right? Like, okay, I wasn't able to kill your dude, but as a show of penance and as a show of loyalty to you, and that's kind of my theory. We'll find out. And I should elaborate something from my last video. I no longer believe that the flashback ends next week. We've got at least a good 3 to 5 chapters of this flashback left. So, more time for me to hope we hit that dragon level, because Barlow wants some more dragon lore, man. Like, I'm fiending, I'm chomping at the bit. I believe as soon as we get anything about dragon in a chapter, honestly, if I see it as spoilers, I'm probably going to drop a video talking about that spoiler point. Your boy wants some more dragon info. But so yeah, that's kind of my theory takeaway from this chapter, is where the breaking of the horns Harold's final last ditch effort to gain favor with the world government and a seat at that table, right? And like I mentioned, I imagine a large portion of the community is kind of going to be thinking the same thing after this week. So we're all going to be holding our breath, waiting. It's a moment we got to believe is coming, right? Because when we were introduced to Harold, it was kind of the big character point. He broke off his own horns. – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– That's my theory. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and move along because aside from that, and still aside from the Shamrock Shanks of it all, I've got 6 more takeaways. So I'm going to try and get through these. I made sure to make notes so I could keep myself on topic, try to be succinct and to the point. Give a few moments to elaborate on all of them, though, you know? So my first takeaway is just something I found curious. I'll be honest, it's not something I think matters. It's not something I think is ever going to be confirmed. And even if it is, it's not something I think plays any kind of role in the outcome of Rox's story, right? But I found myself asking, does Rox have a twin brother as well? Oda, you know, you've been known to reuse character models, right? But I mean, this was basically back-to-back panels. Full honesty, I understand. One panel was near the bottom of one page while the follow-up panel was near the top of the next page. But on the site I read the chapters on before Sunday, because I do try to make sure I read the chapters on the Shonen Jump app every week. Got to make sure I'm lending my support to the property and the franchise, right? I found it a bit odd that Oda used the same character model for 2 characters so close together, especially in a chapter where we're also introduced to Shamrock Shanks. And yes, that is how Barlow refers to it in conversations. I love the McDonald's bit of it all. They are Shamrock Shanks to me. It just, if that bugs you, I'm sorry. I can't give you my word that it's going to change because I really enjoy saying that. But yeah, moving on, we're going to go ahead and hop to the next takeaway, which was a few panels later as the Roger Pirates are entering Shaggy's ripoff bar. Glorious scene. Roger's king of making appearances, man. Like, if he had never become the king of pirates, he still would have been the king of making appearances. So he busts in, yeah, rada rada, rada rada, rada rada rada. Okay, sorry, that was kind of a bit just thrown in last second when I rotted the first time. But, you know, he comes in, and then we got this curious panel. Now, I understand it seems to be Oda trying to invoke those feelings of the first time we saw Luffy and Teach meet on Jaya, right? You know, oh, this cherry pie is the best I've ever tasted. Oh, this cherry pie is garbage. Man, this is some of the best juice ever. Oh, I can't drink this swill. But then we have this line, man. And I'm like, that's not a Luffy or Teach thing to say. That is very much a Zoro or Sanji thing to say. So it kind of got me wondering, was their rivalry really as bitter and blood-fueled as we've been led to believe, right? Or was their rivalry more one of begrudging respect for each other's powers, right? I don't think Roger was ever somebody Zebek entertained the idea of trying to recruit with a Davy back fight, but I do, now that this is personal belief, I really don't have much to corroborate this, but I do feel like Zebek respected Roger's power. Whatever level of respect is up for debate. Like I said, I've got nothing to really support this feeling. It's just a gut feeling, if you were. But we'll go ahead, transition on to my third takeaway, because stocks are up this week. And I have to imagine Sai is going to say something about it in his video too, because I believe his channel was the first time I saw it. I don't know if he's the original poster, the original idea behind the theory, but the Shaggy being Ida stocks are way up this week, right? Like, it wasn't even the first thing I thought of when I saw this panel, right? When I saw this, I'm all, man, that is such a kid moment. Like, you know, right? You're mad about everything. Rah, F the world. Rah, my hero's never coming back. And then mom's all, hey, I got a cup of juice for you. You know what? Juice sounds good. Yeah, thank you. And come running in, drink your juice. It's such a kid moment, right? but also seems to allude to the idea that Loki had respect for Ida. You know, maybe he never called her mom. Maybe he never said, I love you. Maybe he never hugged her, you know, nothing like that. But the fact that he continued to sit on the shore by Ida's bar when there was all of the Hell Realm to post up at, and the fact that he has basically made the Hell Realm his home, like the underworld of Elbaf is as much Loki's home now as the castle in the Sun Realm, right? It it just, man, it's got Barlow on board, and I would love if you guys know who posted the original theory, right? If you guys know who had that original idea, please do let me know in the comments, because I am all about giving respect where respect's due. Even if I don't agree with somebody's theory, the fact that you had the cojones to stand up on the internet and stand behind the words you said, stand behind the idea that you had, that's respect worthy. And especially now that Barlow's on board with this theory, I would love to give a shout out. If y'all know who had the original thought, please let me know. I will gladly give them a shout out at the beginning of the next video. Let them know Barlow has bought into their theory and stocks are running wild for you, my friend. But we'll go ahead and transition on to the next one, because in that same little bit, we also got this panel talking about Rox and Harold would never see each other again until that incident. Now, what incident are they talking about, right? The obvious answer is God Valley. I know we've never had any kind of insinuation or reason to believe that the Giants were involved with the God Valley incident. I mean, outside of a couple of the outlier Giants who had signed up with the Marines at that point, like John Giant, it does seem like Elbaf played a part on whatever happened on God Valley. So, is that what the narrator's referring to? Or I would like to pose the idea, and I may flesh this one out into a full theory, that Rock survived the God Valley incident and was present on Elbaf when Harold was killed. I don't fully buy into it personally. Like I said, it's kind of just a wild thought at this point. I haven't really dove into the various angles that that idea could have, right? You know, there's always divergent paths when you're talking about theory crafting. So I do try my best to think about all the different angles that it could take to make sure I'm presenting you guys with a theory that's worth your time to listen to. But what do y'all think? Is it referring to the God Valley incident? Am I overthinking? Am I overcooking on this one? Or do you guys like the idea that it may be referring to the death of Harold? Because after all, this isn't a God Valley flashback. This is a Harold's death flashback. And the fact that Zebek is such a heavy part of it, yeah, we could just read into that as Loki revering Zebek so highly, right? But Oda doesn't really have a track record of putting things in the story because one of his characters would want it. The ideas and the points in the story are setting us up for what's to come, right? And that's why I enjoy theory crafting so much, is because there are always angles that I couldn't have seen in my wildest dreams, right? So I just kind of wanted to pitch that one as kind of see where you guys are standing. Is it going to be the God Valley incident the next time Harold and Zebek meet? Let me know. The next takeaway is going to be a rather quick one. Takeaway number 5, simply being that the continued differences between Roger and Luffy are on display in this chapter again, right? Because this isn't Luffy. This isn't something Luffy would do or say. Rogers is very much a man distracted by worldly pleasures, where Luffy stands as a man on a mission, right? Hey, sorry, I keep hitting my chin. I feel like there's a hair or something there. May have missed one. So I just think it's curious because in this flashback, we've also been getting a lot of hints that Zebek himself had some potentially Joy Boy adjacent aspects about him, right? Or, I mean, I guess I could just be the only one who has been connecting the lines there. I doubt it. I I try to have original thoughts, but I mean, we're talking about billions of people on the planet. We're talking about one of the most popular stories on the planet right now. Even thoughts that YouTubers are having, putting into their videos, are very potentially not original thoughts in the sense of the community. There's almost certainly somebody else out there thinking the same thing we are, right? So let me know what you guys think about this divergence and the connection between Roger and Luffy. The sixth takeaway is probably the one I personally found the most interesting from the chapter. Obviously, the final panel was incredible, and we are going to get to that. But what did Garling find on God Valley, right? Like, aside from a beautiful woman and aside from creating two beautiful babies, what did Garling find? Because none of that was what he talked about when he got back to Marijwa, right? He gets back, he goes to the Goro, says, "Oh, hey, so mid-mission, I kind of needed to take a breather. I found this island, I posted up for a bit, gathered my senses, got a little bit of food in my belly, realized they have a lot of resources we could use, so we did a little bit of exploring before getting back to the mission and discovered something the Great One would be pleased with." Now, what could it be? Because the world government's already a web across and around the globe, right? Like, they probably don't need more military resources. They probably don't need more food. They get heavenly tribute from every affiliated nation, so they're probably not hurting for money. Uh, they have doctors, I'm sure. Vegapunk has been aligned with them in the past, so they probably aren't hurting for medical or scientific needs. But it does seem like they are hurting for something, at least if we can take anything from the last arc, right? Because what did the world government want from Egghead? The only thing that none of their agents were given the okay to destroy: the Mother Flame. And I would like to postulate that, and I do need to, before I elaborate, I do need to take a second, give credit to my friend on Discord, because it was a conversation with her that really got the wheels clicking with this one. But I would like to present the idea that Garling found a fuel source that could be used for an ancient weapon. Now, a quick moment, let that sink in, because I'm not really sure where people are going to go with this one, what Garling potentially found, right? But I really like this idea of it being a fuel source, because the notable feature of God Valley is this giant spire of a mountain, right? That is curiously split in half perfectly down the middle vertically. Now, from what I remember, there is a real world analog for this. There's a giant boulder, I believe it's in the Utah desert, that is split perfectly in half. I'll try and, get a screenshot of it up here, and it's perched precariously on some smaller boulders. It's been around for a long time. It might be Nevada. I know it's either Utah or Nevada. It's in one of the national parks, because I remember reading an article about it being defaced by graffiti. I'm not going to get too political. I don't know. Historical monuments are historical monuments, and if you begin to forget about the past, then you risk making the same mistake in the future. A boulder isn't likely to give us anything to learn from, I admit, but it's a peculiarity that lines up with One Piece in its own way. Because how this boulder came to be is something that there are many theories about, right? Like, it's not something that we've fully figured out at this point in human history. So I'm kind of wondering if whatever fuel source it was is something that is there in that crater, I guess, in the middle of the mountain. Whatever created the split left something behind. But the reason I like the idea that it's a fuel source is not only, sorry, having a little bit of trouble scrolling real quick. Not only does it track with events that have happened in the story, obviously, as I said, the Gorosei were interested in Egghead because of the Mother Flame. And it does seem like they didn't have access to readily being able to use this weapon, right? Because the Buster Call was the first island destroyer that we were introduced to, kind of implying that it became the crutch that the world government leaned on. They're like, hey, you know what? We can't put our giant weapon into the sky right now, but if we get a whole bunch of our battleships together, we can kind of make the same thing happen. So let's just roll with that for now. We'll find some way to boot this up again later. I know it. And not only that, but the idea tracks in real life as well, right? Like, so many wars have been fought over fossil fuels or oil specifically, or radioactive energy, like nuclear energy. That's the word I was looking for. Wars have been fought over control of these things. Fuel is probably the one thing that's needed more than anything to continue to drive an advancing civilization forward. Yes, you need money. Yes, you need people. But without fuel to drive everything forward, it doesn't matter how much money or people you have. So, after the conversation, I found myself really liking this idea that Garling ran into a fuel source and was able to identify that it could potentially be harnessed to fuel their weapon. Now, why do I even entertain the idea that Garling would be able to identify a potential fuel source? Well, what spot on the Gorosei did he take over? He became the warrior god of science and defense. Now, admittedly, it could just be anybody thrown into any of the roles, given a title, because they have the power to, make sure Emu's way is put into motion, right? But I feel like it's more likely that the titles actually mean something, meaning, at minimum, Garling does have some kind of understanding of scientific and defensive measures. So it's not unreasonable to think that Garling would see some and be able to identify, like, oh man, if we mix this with a couple other things, I bet we could use that as a fuel source. Because what else did he say he did? He said he extended an invitation to this island to join the world government. That's peculiar. And in case you didn't catch it, that is odd. To be clear, the islands who have joined the world government made the choice to pursue that alignment. These islands decided, okay, these people can protect my people better than I can. It is willing parting with some of my resources to make sure that they have our back in case some pirates decide to attack one day. But evidently, whatever God Valley has was seen as important enough that without consulting anybody, without apparently even radioing back, because if he had used a Den Den Mushi to get in contact, they would have had some idea of what he was talking about. He wouldn't have had to elaborate. Yeah, I found a bunch of resources and I found something Eames really gonna like. They would have already been aware of that from the call. So whatever he found was seemingly big enough that he decided, okay, you know what? Emu's definitely 1,000 million gajillion% gonna want to get their hands on that. I need to make an effort to try and get them to align with us. And it's the only island up to this point that has been revealed to have been reached out to by the world government in an attempt to get them to align. So whatever Garling found was big, it's important, it's something that the world government must have, right? And what could that really be? I mean, like I said, they're not really hurting for anything. I mean now they are because the RA has them under siege, but 40 years ago, they weren't under siege. They weren't hurting for resources like they are now, you know? And I find it kind of cool that, and kind of sad, I guess, I don't know, bittersweet, it might be the proper word for it, that God Valley is also the only island so far who's doesn't seem to fear the world government, right? Like, they were extended an invitation. They said, nah, we're good, fam. We got our own stuff, but I appreciate it. You guys are solid people for offering. But I'm still cool with you chilling out on the island. Yeah, you need a respite. I've got plenty of area for you to relax. Go chill on the beach. I'll have somebody bring you a margarita. Oh man, you ain't never had a margarita? Oh, okay. I'll have somebody bring you 3 margaritas. You can just kind of relax, you know, let the worries wash away for a day, and then you look like you were stressing, so I'm sure you're under pressure. You can get back to it tomorrow. Forget about it today. Long story short, they refused the invitation and still weren't afraid to allow Garling to rest and relax on their island. That's a lack of fear that we have never seen before. Most islands are aware of the impending, intimidating nature of the world government, right? And they're all, oh man, I wish the world government would offer. I'd chomp at that bit. I've been saving up for a decade trying to get enough heavenly tribute to pay the first year to get us in. And it had me thinking, was God Valley always like this? Like, I mean, in the sense that even during the Void Century, did they refuse to align with the Ancient Kingdom or the 20 Kingdoms? Were they just out there doing their own thing the entire time? And, you know, just a couple curious thoughts I found myself having. Now, we will go ahead and hop over. Ooh, whoa, I am sorry. I doubt I'm going to be able to edit that out. I'll maybe try and put some over the screen during that bright bit. I apologize. Got the light a little higher than usual, I guess, today. But we're going to go ahead and transition to the Shamrock Shanks because, and I should remember to put this timestamp at the beginning, just in case somebody only wanted to hear this bit. Because, man, that panel, it stole the show for me. It was one panel. We didn't even actually get to interact with Shamrock or Shanks. We're just introduced to them as babies 39 years ago, assumedly within a few months after their birth. Worryingly, we're also looking at months before the God Valley incident. And man, these babies were so full of life. They were so happy, those smiles, man. I know anybody that knows me personally knows what a smile in anime or manga means to me. Like, Natsu is my favorite character of all time because that smile in episode 1, he turned around, come with me, everything will be okay, Lucy. I was watching that, I started to tear up a little bit. I ain't gonna lie. I was sitting there like, he's right. I go with him, everything will be okay. And my boy never let me down. Like, even when he was at the throes of despair as END fighting Gray, he never let me down. So seeing those smiles, it was, oh man. Oh, chef's kiss, Oda. You blew my top off. You could have dropped the chapter as only that one panel, big ass across the page, and Barlow would have been happy. Those babies, man. Those babies. So full of life, so full of hope. And their mom, man. Like, obviously, some kind of royalty on God Valley. You know, what kind is anybody's guess? Queen, princess, duchess, or whatever it was. The way the people were fawning over her and the babies, right? Like, she is an important figure in the culture on God Valley. And man, I just know I'm gonna get my heart broken. This could be another wonderful mom killed off because our heroes can't have good moms. They can't. I don't know. I don't get it, Oda. Please, please, for the love of everything that is good with Nika himself, Oda, please tell me why our heroes can't have loving mothers, man. Especially when you're giving us probably one of the best mothers in all of fiction, in my opinion, dude. Like, Ida is primo. She is prime mom. Momtibus prime. Oh, man. But I know Shamrock Shank's mom is going to meet some kind of awful, just, oh man. I have to believe it's going to be terrible because of what she is, what she was introduced as, you know? But this is that whole meltdown right there was kind of something that just happened as I started talking about it. That's not part of my notes. And even after that, I find that I'm still left with one question. I read the brief spoilers on Tuesday, I think it was late Tuesday. I read the full spoilers on Wednesday. Read the chapter 3 times already today, man. And I was left with one question. What happened to Shamrock? Man, what happened to this baby? Oh, it hurts. It hurts me, man, because this baby is so full of life, so full of light, so full of hope and potential, man. And then Garling came back into its life. What happened to Shamrocks? Man, it's... wow. I can't believe I didn't think about this when making the notes, because I don't love the movie, I guess. I don't know. The philosophical debate of the movie is something that stuck with me. There's this old, I believe it's 1950s movie called The Bad Seed. Some of y'all might be familiar with it. Some might not. It's in black and white. If that's not your shtick, maybe it's not worth checking out. I think they tried to do a remake of it recently. I've heard nothing but bad things, so maybe don't check that one out under the pretense that you're going to learn something about the Figureland twins. But the original movie, even for being in black and white and focused on a child, right? It stuck with me because the point of the movie and the original novel that it was adapted from is the argument between nature versus nurture. What has the biggest impact on a child, right? Is it the environment they grow up in, or is it the people who raise them? And Oda is, man, not even shoulder deep. How far into a bag can you reach, man? Like forehead deep, like his head's disappearing into that bag with this reference for me, man. Because that's kind of what Shamrock Shanks is, right? It's the argument nature versus nurture. What matters the most? And Oda seems to be implying that they're equals. If you're raised in a bad environment by bad people, you're going to become a bad guy. if you're raised in a bad environment by good people, you got a chance, I guess. I don't know. I wouldn't call pirating a good environment for a child, but I also wouldn't call the Rogers Pirates bad people, you know? So, this idea, man, I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep the smile on, but guys, I need you to understand this panel with the babies is doing a number to me, man. It's no Kuma flashback. It's kind of up there with the birth of Loki. Or like, man, the emotional struggle for me is real again on this chapter. And no, I don't want to end on a frustrating note or a sad note. So I don't really know where to end though, because I'll be honest, looking at my notes, it is the ending I chose. What happened to Shamrocks? And how long did Garling know that there were two babies? Anyway, let's pivot to the transition out. As always, guys, you know, I'd love to interact with you more. Feel free to leave a comment. If you're liking the content, don't forget to throw me a like, maybe a subscription if you're liking it that much. Help YouTube make sure the new videos end up on your feed. And as always, you know, I'd love to hear what your guys' takeaways were from the chapter. What did you think was important, and did I miss it? Let's talk about this, you know, and if a YouTube comment isn't enough for you, I'll make sure I leave that link to the Barlow Zone Discord community in the bio. As always, every week will be a fresh link for you to use, and you can check me out on my socials at X and Twitter at BarlowBeTheorizing. I'm really bad about posting on social media. I don't know. I should work on trying to get better. My videos are always linked to the X, the Tumblr, and the Discord as soon as they're uploaded though. So just in case you don't want to risk YouTube not showing you, feel free to throw me a follow on either of the socials or join me on the Discord community. And as always, thank you for your time, and I will see y'all in the next one. Much love, friends.